Hello and welcome to the Grizzled Warmaster. My name is Doug, and in today's episode, we're going to take a look at the Hammers of Sigmar versus a Lumineth meta list. Let's take a look at what we've got for these two lists. First, for the Lumineth Realm Lords, we're going to do this meta list that was essentially just an Auralan battalion. 4 units of Wardens, 4 units of Sentinels, 20 guys in each of those, 10 in the Wardens, and a Cathalar. Going up against those, we will have... First, we're going to hit the strengths. The Lumineth Realm Lord's strengths, 1 drop, massive potential range damage in the average of 6 mortal wounds per unit. So a massive 24 mortal wounds, potentially. Give or take. That's the average. Weaknesses, they have 1 squishy hero. That's it. So they will struggle with some of the missions and to use command points and things like that effectively. The battalion bonus requires the army to stay grouped up, because this is the one that as long as 2 units from the battalion are within 3 inches of each other, they can reroll 1s to save. So you're going to see some of those units grouping up. The Hammers of Sigmar, on the other hand, are not going to take a battalion at all, but will spend 50 points for an extra CP. The heroes for this list will be a Celestin Prime, Gabriel Sureheart, a Lord Celestin, and a Lord Ordinator. There'll be 4 minimum units of Liberators with Grand Hammers and a unit of Judicators with bows. As the battle line, we'll have 2 Celestar Ballista, and then the real meat of the list will be those 10 Evocators, and then 2 units of 3 Ether Wings and a unit of Castigators. So the Hammers of Sigmar strength is you keep the strongest units off the board until needed, meaning they are not susceptible to that long range fire. And with Gabriel Sureheart, you can get a 6-inch charge from reserve. And with the Celestin Prime, you can have a guaranteed charge, because he can set dice for a charge, whatever he wants them to be. The weaknesses for the list is no magic, and Stormcast in general just have a subpar allegiance abilities. They're going to make use of the one really good one they have, but that's it. All right, let's take a look at how this battle will play out. First, let's look at placement of the 2 armies as they set up. First, the Stormcast are going to place all their valuable units in the heavens, leaving the Liberators, Etherwings, Judicators, and Castigators on the table. The Lumineth have to deploy defensively using Wardens to create a perimeter around the Sentinels and the Cathalar to intercept those troops coming from the heavens. Lumineth are basically have to take the first turn to get buffed up, or risk taking too much damage from the Stormcast Alpha Strike. If they don't take that first turn and risk the double turn, they aren't going to be able to get protection of Hish up, and they will theoretically suffer a third more casualties. All right, so here's how I think the battle will play out. Round 1 for the Lumineth, Cathalar is going to cast Total Eclipse. Oh, I am assuming this is a Zatrek unit, or a Zatrek Great Nation. I did this so that I didn't have to play around with the odds of all of the powers of Hish getting off. I'm guessing with the +1 that they will have them most of the time. I actually give them it all the time. I never let them fail the powers of Hish or the protection of Hish spells. So that's why we're doing this. So the Cathalar is going to cast Total Eclipse. That's the one where they have to spend 2 CP to get the effects of any command ability. 1 unit of Sentinels will cast the protection of Hish. That is to give a bigger range for that protection spell. Since you can put it on a unit that's 20 models, that'll extend the range out quite a bit, because this is a 9-inch, so they're going to have to be packed pretty closely to all benefit from it. But there's that. Then the other units will cast Power of Hish. The unit of 1 unit of Wardens is going to cast Ethereal Blessing. Though, now that I'm thinking about it, we'll do that first round. But I'll tell you, in subsequent rounds, they don't. They would rather have have 1/3 rather than 1/6 of their wounds cause mortal wounds. So The other, obviously, one casts Ethereal Blessing, the other all cast Power of Hish. At this point, they're being defensive and want to be able to deal damage when the units come down from the heavens. The Sentinels will target the Judicators first, with the first unit dealing 6 mortal wounds, killing 3 of the Judicators. With an 8 bravery on the target, they know that they're not going to run. So the Sentinels without Power of Hish also target the unit, dealing 3 more mortal wounds, leaving only 1 Judicator, the Prime, left. And then another unit does 6 mortal wounds to the Castigators, destroying them, and a final unit does 6 mortal wounds to units of Aetherwings, destroying them, leaving only 1 Judicator, 1 unit of Aetherwings, and 4 units of Liberators on the table. With bravery of 8, there's only a third chance that the Judicator runs, so I'm going to leave him where he is, but I'll tell you now he's only going to act in round 1 for the Stormcast, I think, maybe round 2, but otherwise I'm going to ignore him. Again, this is partly to balance out the Power of Hish always goes off, or, the Stormcaster generally only going to take mortal wounds from shooting. I'm going to ignore the other, the other 3 hits. Their armor is high enough that they, on average, they're taking 0.75 wounds. So I'm just going to ignore those and kind of make some, we're going to be a little squishy with the details here, because this is not about the statistics of everything. It's about the general flow of the battle. All right, so round 1 for the Stormcast, the Liberators and remaining Aetherwing are going to move forward, either securing objectives in their own territory, which will have happened at the end of the Lumineth round 1, so they can all move forward. They know that the Lumineth don't have the ability to move out and take anything from them, so there'll be this solid line of Liberators and Aetherwings moving forward to engage the enemy or to grab additional objectives. All the other units in the heavens except the Celestant Prime are going to drop in from the heavens. The Gavriel Sureheart, the Lord Celestant, and the Evocators will all drop together wholly within 12 inches of Gavriel Sureheart to get his command ability. The Celestar Ballista and the Lord Ordinator will be separate from them, kind of in the middle of the field, and they will focus their fire on the Cathalar. Odds are that the 2 Ballista with your Lord Ordinator canceling out the Cathalar's Lookout Sir, and the remaining Justicar, who normally hits on a 2+, but the Prime hits on a 2+, but now it's a 3+. They are going to be able to get the 5 damage through, even with the damage prevention rolls, and kill her off. This is part of the reason why the protection of Hish is on the Sentinels and not the Cathalar is, 1, it's a smaller range, and 2, the likelihood of the Cathalar surviving against any shooting army is pretty low. So that'll finish our shooting. Gavriel Sureheart then spends 2 CP to give all of those units grouped around him a +3 inch charge. The Evocators, Lord Celestant and Gavriel Sureheart, charge 2 different units of Wardens, with the Evocators fully engaging 1 and then moving 1 model in close enough to the second one. Remember, these have to be grouped up to be able to benefit from their reroll 1s to save. And that way they can throw their mortal wounds at the unit they're not attacking. All said and done, the Evocators go first, do 6 wounds from the 40 attacks they get against the 1 unit of Wardens, thanks to their Shining Company, the ability to use Aether Quartz to give them a 3+ armor save, and then the damage prevention roll from the protection of Hish. They also do 7 mortal wounds to the other unit, again thanks to the damage prevention rolls. Otherwise they would have been wiped out. That first unit of Wardens then does 3 mortal wounds to the Evocators, taking 1 of them out, going down to 9. And the second unit does 2 mortal wounds to Gavriel Sureheart, taking him down to 3 wounds. Both units of Wardens will flee from battle shock, and Gavriel and the Lord Ordinator, or the Lord Celestant, might be able to finish off the 3 that they're engaged. Well, actually, likely will finish off those 3, but if not, they will flee to battle shock. All right, moving on to round 2 of the battle. Round 2 for the Lumineth, we still have 4 units of Sentinels and 2 units of Wardens. 1 unit of the Sentinels will be relatively close to the remaining Evocators, Gabriel Sureheart, and the Lord Celestin, while only 1 Warden will be in range to engage the Ballista. So, again, we'll have the same Protection of Hysh, Powers of Hysh cast. Again, we're going to assume they succeed. All 4 units of Sentinels target the Evocators, dealing a total of 21 mortal wounds, killing 7 of them, leaving just 2, and 1 more will likely run to Battle Shock. They have a leadership of 9, so it would take a 3 or more for anybody to run. 3.5, we're going to err on the side of 1 of them remaining. 1 unit of Wardens will charge the Ballista, while the other unit moves to kind of support the 2 remaining units of Sentinels. Because they're too far away to engage from anybody, they're going to remain in Shining Company. The Wardens attack and deal 6 mortal wounds to the first Ballista, destroying it, but the Lord Ordinator can stay far enough outside of that engagement to not be pulled in the first time. He will be pulled in the next round when the Wardens pile in. The remaining Ballista does no damage. They're too weak, even with the Lord Ordinator giving him +1 to hit. They're still unlikely to hurt one of the Wardens. Round 2 for the Stormcast. The Liberators and remaining Aetherwings continue moving forward. The Aetherwing unit will be in range to actually get involved because of its increased movement. The Celestin Prime will now enter the fray on the far side of the field with only 1 unit of Wardens to kind of cover the Sentinels. He'll be able to get himself within charge range of 1 of the units of Sentinels. So the Celestin Prime will also launch a Comet from his Comet Strike Scepter and deal 2 mortal wounds to 2 different units of Sentinels. Either the Sentinels will make a save if it's a 3, or like 2 mortal wounds is the average, so we're just going to say they take 2 wounds. The Ballista will fire into the Wardens that they're engaged with. This will average 7 hits, dealing 4 wounds, 1 armor save and 2 DPR saves made. That's being kind of generous, but we're going to stick with it. The Evocator, the remaining Evocator, it's only 1, Gabriel Sureheart and the Lord Celestin, will charge the unit of Sentinels, 1 of the units of Sentinels that they were fairly close to, using a CP for the Lord Celestin's command ability to give them +1 to hit to counteract the Shining Company. And then the Celestin Prime will charge the Sentinels on the far side using his ability to set his dice to make sure he makes his charge. And then the unit of Aetherwings will tag an additional unit of Sentinels, meaning there's only 1 unit of Sentinels free to shoot wherever they want. The Evocator attacks first, deals 2 wounds +1 mortal wound. Both units of Sentinels will attack. Again, they can't pile in because they're in Shining Company. Well, they can only pile in 1 inch, so they're not going to deal a lot of damage. 1 to the Celestin Prime, and 1 damage to an Evocator. Because the Evocators only have a 4+ armor save, whereas the Celestin Prime, the Lord Celestin and Gabriel Sureheart have 3+, so it's unlikely they're going to get through to them. The Celestin Prime will kill 6 Sentinels, 3 saved by Protection of Hysh, leaving 12 remaining in his unit. He's already done 2 mortal wounds to him before. Gabriel Sureheart and Lord Celestin do a combined 8 wounds to the Sentinels, with only 9 remaining after that. 6 remaining Wardens do 4 mortal wounds, an additional wound to the Lord Ordinator, whereas the Lord Ordinator and the Ballista do 2 damage in return to them, bringing them down to just... what would that be? 6, 3 remaining. The Aetherwings lose a model and don't do any damage. They're just there to tie up those Sentinels. Again, the Sentinels can't do a lot because they only get a 1-inch pile in, and their weapons aren't terribly effective, but enough to take out 1 of the Aetherwings. We're going to assume all the remaining Sentinels run to Battle Shock. There might have been one remaining Sentinel in Sureheart, and the unit engaging Sureheart. Maybe. But it's close enough that the averages are they were going to run. And then four more will run from the Celestin Primes unit, dropping that unit down to just 8 remaining. All right, let's take a look at the critical round 3. As you've probably noticed by now, I have ignored the double turn. I've assumed that the Lumineth have won their role with their slight advantage each turn, because if I didn't, the Stormcast would have already wiped them out. Well, not wiped them out, but would have turned the tide decisively whenever that double turn happened. So let's go ahead and take a look. We do have a unit of Sentinels that can cast Protection of Hysh, 2 other units of Sentinels to cast Power of Hysh. All but one of those are currently engaged, so they'll have to fire at the target they're engaged with. 1 Warden unit will cast Power of Hysh. The other one only has 1 wound remaining, or 1 model remaining, so he can't cast. So the Sentinels that cast Protection of Hysh will take out the remaining Evocator, who only had 2 wounds, but they do 3 mortal wounds to him. The Sentinels engaged with the Aether Wings will destroy them, wasting most of their damage since there was only 4 wounds with no save there. And the unit of 8 Sentinels engaged with the Celestin Prime will manage to do 2 mortal wounds to him, bringing him down to 7 wounds remaining. The unengaged unit of Wardens charges the Celestin Prime. The other unit stays in combat basically with the Lord Ordinator and the Ballista. Both units of Wardens fight first. The first unit does 1 wound to the Lord Ordinator, leaving him with 1 wound remaining. The second unit does 6 mortal wounds to the Celestin Prime and 3 additional wounds, all of which he saves, having to use his ability to set 1 dice roll to save him on the last one. This leaves him with 1 wound remaining. The Celestin Prime then deals 6 damage to the Sentinels. The 2 remaining do no damage to him and are going to flee to Battle Shock. The Ballista and Lord Ordinator finish off the remaining Warden they're engaged with. So round 3 for the Stormcast. At this point, the Liberators are close enough to engage, and 2 of them will charge in. First off, we'll use the remaining Ballista is going to fire 4 shots into the fresh unit of Wardens, dealing 4 wounds to them. The Celestin Prime will also use his Comet Strike Scepter against the same unit, doing 3 mortal wounds, leaving only 3 Wardens left. 1 unit of Liberators will charge 1 unit of Sentinels. Gabriel, Sureheart, Lord Celestin, and the other unit of Liberators charge the other, and they will use the 1 command point for the command ability on the Lord Celestin to get rid of the -1 to hit. The Celestin Prime remains engaged with his 3 remaining Wardens, and he will strike first, finishing them off. The 2 units of Sentinels fight next, dealing 1 wound to the Liberators and 1 wound to Gabriel Sureheart, dropping him to 4 wounds. The first unit of Liberators will actually probably only kill 2 Sentinels. I forgot to use Shining Company there. Gabriel Celestin Prime, or not Celestin Prime, that should say Lord Celestin, sorry about that. And Liberators do a total of 11 damage to the Sentinels, who are likely to all, or almost all, run. The others, they'll be fine. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. With only 2 units of Sentinels, and maybe only 1 remaining, they just can't do anything at this point. The Stormcast will control all of the objectives and be able to grind that last unit down. And those Sentinels, even if they continue to get first turn, just don't have the damage output to keep the waves of Stormcast continuing to come at bay. So here's some final thoughts. First off, this is a dice game, and things could certainly go differently. Some charges, even 6-inch charges, could be failed. More or less mortal wounds could be done by the Sentinels, the Wardens, or even the Evocators, or the Celestin Prime. So something to keep in mind here is even if you can do 24 mortal wounds around, that doesn't mean that's going to be enough to keep you safe from opposing enemies, especially ones that can teleport up and get into range to threaten either those sentinels or to break through your lines and just bring them into melee combat. There are plenty of armies that can tank that number of mortal wounds and whittle down those sentinels through shooting attacks or whatever. So this is just a quick show. I don't think anybody's running this particular unit or army of Lumineth anymore. I think it's pretty clear that these would struggle in games where they were fighting very endurant, or armies that could bring models back or bring units back or summon in new units. They just couldn't play the long objective game. So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts. Can you think of any other armies that would have done well in this scenario? Did you think I was fair on this? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you would, please share with a friend. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.